Alright, so I'm going to be doing a VOD review for Vitezen, Bronze 1 Ramatra. You mentioned that you're new here, which is totally understandable, right? I can definitely tell you're new, and obviously nothing wrong with that. But I think your primary problem right now is that you're just new, right? You don't really seem to have a good idea of what different heroes do, especially on the other team, right? You know, learning, like, I'd say, right, the cooldowns of different characters, about how much damage they can do, and about what their range is super important, especially on tank, because it'll completely dictate how you take fights, right? For example, if their support lineup is like Ana Zen, you know, that's really dangerous for you as a tank if you get called out of position. You, especially as like a tank with not the best shielding, or even potentially no shielding, if you were to play like Ball or something, right? Or Roadhog, right? You know, that's very dangerous. But then, you know, compare that to Moira Mercy, which both characters don't really do any damage to you. You know, that's a team lineup you can get much more aggressive into. So obviously, you know, it would help if you look at, I guess, the wiki, or just tried out different characters in the training range and see what the different cooldowns do. And needless to say, you don't need to learn everything immediately, right? Probably the best way to do is keep playing, and maybe if you're interested, go check out a few characters here and then. But it's very important in this game, right? It's not like other shooters where pretty much, you know, you have certain, I guess, like weapon types or even a few classes, but they're all kind of like the same. In Overwatch, every character is going to have to like take fights pretty much completely differently. Like, obviously, there's a lot of overlap, especially with certain characters, but a lot of them are very, very unique. And I have to say, I've also noticed that you don't use your cooldowns as much as I want you to, and I'll demonstrate this as the game goes on. And I also want you to be more aware of how many teammates on your team are alive, and how many teammates are, or how many team members of the opposing team are alive at the same time, right? A very important thing in Overwatch is applying pressure when you have an advantage and backing up and giving space when you have a disadvantage, right? And the most obvious way of determining this is team player count. Let's say like they have a Widowmaker or something, the sniper in the game, that just instantly headshots 2 players in your team. You know, it's going to be very difficult to push into their team and get anything done without, you know, all 5 of your players, right? Conversely, if you have a Widowmaker on your team and she immediately gets 2 picks, right? That's pretty much a green light for you to get as aggressive as possible, because they're going to have a very difficult time killing you. Obviously, this goes back to the original point I said, and it depends on the characters on the opposing team and their cooldowns, how aggressive you can get, but that's the general rule. So here as tank, usually I wouldn't come up this way, especially as Ramatra, right? You can't really threaten people very well from high ground. But if you do decide, I just, you know, get cart a little further up and spam these people on low ground a bit and force them away. But if you do decide to come up here, as Ramatra, you really shouldn't be looking to shoot the flying characters too much. They're just very difficult for you to consistently hit. Maybe if you have like really good mechanics and you're like metal ranks, you can get away with it because people's movement is not particularly good, right? But generally, you know, unless they're very low, you're not going to be able to do much damage to them as Ramatra. That goes in general for all projectile characters. They tend to be, you know, very hard to use against flying characters. Since you're up here, right? I think what I was going to say, I got distracted, is since you're up here, you can throw down a shield, right? This is kind of what's going to, like, touching upon on the second point, so the Pharah can't easily spam you. You know, she has to go like way high in the sky and put herself in the field of vision of your teammates, and also that makes it harder for her to hit rockets on you, like good damage rockets, right? I'd start spamming their backline. And when I say backline, I mean pretty much anyone on their team that's not a tank. So like this Junkrat would suffice, right? This Juno, I believe, would suffice, and this Ana. She's a little too far back, but she would also work if she was further up, right? The reason you want to do that is because they have the least amount of health, right, by default. You know, this guy only has 250 health. I think Ryan has 700-ish health and a 1600 health shield, right? So he's just going to mathematically take much longer to kill unless he makes like a huge mistake. So you either have a better chance of killing the backline or forcing out important cooldowns to keep the backline alive, right? So again, if you notice here, this Ryan still has a full shield and he's still half health. He's still like 300-ish health for you, right? I'll show you. 324. But take a look at this Junkrat. He's actually trapped. I didn't even notice, and he can literally die before in like 1 or 2 shots from you, right? He can't move, and you know he's very weak, so he should be a free kill. Fortunately, your teammates end up killing him anyways. So now you know you might as well shoot the Reinhardt because it's your best option here. And this is what I was touching upon, like the third point. If you're up players, right, you can't really die here, right? It's a weak Reinhardt and a Juno who knows, or she's really far back, and the Pharah's kind of far back, right? They can't really punish you here. I know the numbers are actually even, but since you still have a support and a DPS, and the Ryan's really weak, you should be looking to push this guy immediately. You actually can't shoot through shields, Sramatra, with your staff, but if you hit your Nemesis form right, you can punch through shields. And just ignore the shield, right, and do damage to his health. So you do that here, right? But let me go into third person free cam and show you what I mean by learning the ranges of characters. Do you see how far your punch goes? That's a pretty like long distance, right? The Reinhardt's swing, for example, maybe goes a little more than half your distance. So even though he's low, there's no reason for you to run straight into him unless you have no choice, right? Like if he's about to turn a corner or something and get saved, but here this is obviously not the case. You want to stay away from him to stop him from getting ult charge, right? And stop yourself from eating damage. You don't want to take unnecessary damage pretty much ever, right? So just keep that in mind. It's a good kill. Here, you're up 1 player, so that means you should be running in, right? Trying to get these staggers, because what you don't want to have happen is them to like 2-shot your DPS or something, right? As tank, you're in a unique position of being basically unkillable in a 1v, any 1v1, right? Especially at point blank range. This isn't always the case, right? There are some exceptions, but overwhelmingly, this is the case, right? So you want to be pressuring them immediately, especially as tank, so they can't turn the fight.
Let's get into a healing rhythm.
Okay, I think it's good that you're walking up. You should be walking up to control some sort of entrance point. I'm not sure if this is from indecision from you or not knowing the map. There are 3 places people can come back in. The first one's obviously up here, and then there's kind of a branching path from here, and then also to this side. Your job is to control 1, and I think going high ground is the correct play because you can see pretty much all 3 from here, right? And if they decide to push upper and you're low ground, you really can't do anything about it. So you're kind of taking a long path away, unnecessary. You could have just walked up the desert side, right? And then started spamming the Junkrat already, but this is okay. Here, again, cooldown usage, right? You have the Vortex, which actually, because the Pharah is so low, will keep her on the floor, right? If they're stuck in the Vortex, they're not able to move very well. They can't move vertically, and their movement speed is slowed.
From them.
So, you know, doing that makes it much easier to hit your staff shots. Okay, here, you hear the Reinhardt's in, I suppose. I actually don't use headsets usually, believe it or not. It's definitely advisable. I'm not sure if you're looking at him or the cart or where your team is, but if a tank's in, usually the way you kill tanks as other tanks is to deny their team from walking in for free, right? Taking more attention from the opponents in a tough like spot for them So the tank just gets destroyed by your team's focus fire from a million different angles, or I guess 4 different angles, while they get no healing, right? So I'm sure you can imagine this Ryan standing here has way more like sight lines to worry about, right? Here's your Lucio, this cast can come down and shoot him. If your Juno is in a better spot, she could shoot him too from like over here, for example, right? And he just cannot shield everywhere at once. But if you were like closer-ish to this choke, like here-ish, right? These people only have one angle on you, right? So you can shield this off and take no damage and be in no danger of dying, and completely prevent his entire team from being able to heal him, right? That's why map knowledge and like time, but player knowledge is super important on tank, because you usually lack the DPS to just quickly kill the tank, right? It's not like you're on Bastion or Reaper or Junkrat where you can just unload all your ammo and kill a tank. You know, it'll take multiple seconds for you to be able to kill a tank. So yeah, don't go up high ground there. There's really no reason. If you want to shoot the Rhine, stay behind him, right? I still think it's kind of a lower value thing to do than controlling the rest of his team, like I said. Just stay high ground and force this angle so he can't shield 2 places at once, right? You want to split people's attention if you have the space to do so. Right, so unfortunately no one else is on cart. So in this specific scenario, it kinda could work if you go in front of them, because your cast and junk can turn around and shoot them. But obviously they're not here with you, so you're also putting yourself in his kind of like swing range here, right? No reason to do that, like I said earlier. If Reinhardt's all alone, you know, I think it's worth going in your punch mode just to actually beat down his health behind his shield to force him away sooner, right? Because he has way less health than he does shield. So yeah, this is kind of like you walking too close, right? Now, if you're within hammer swing range, Reinhardt's going to win the exchange, actually. He just does more damage per second, and he has more health. So he'll force you to block and still build his own charge. Okay, that was a good target switch on the Juno. Obviously your aim can be a little bit better, but that's alright. Okay, you see this right here, what you're doing now, getting behind him, is the right thing to do. Because he can no longer shield 2 places at once. Your team's finally playing here, and you were able to walk around and just, you know, you don't end up killing him, but you do a lot of damage to him, so. Here, again, like, know what characters can do. This Ana, even if she uses all of her cooldowns on you, will not be able to kill you, right? And, like, you know, 2 people on our team just died. I guess the Juno just spawned. Whatever, so you're up at least 1 player, I guess. Yeah, it looks like a few of them are coming back from spawn, right? So you have nothing to fear from this Ana. What you don't want her to do is sleep and nade to trade for one of your teams. She's probably still not going to win the fight, but you want your team to be alive if you can prevent the fight. Okay, well that was a good kill.
Match this BPM.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Okay, so their tank is still dead, right? And their Ana just died as well. They're very, very far away. And I guess their Junkrat also died recently, yeah? So you shouldn't be afraid of fighting these people, right? Your entire team is with you. You should be chasing, and these are hard people to kill, right? But maybe if you run forward and draw attention from them and do just a bit of damage, your cast could kill them, right? This tank, you really don't want to be playing on the point unless you have no other option but to do so. In low rank, usually you really don't need to ever play on the point as you go up in rank, depending on the tank, right? Like immobile tanks like Ramatra, generally it's map dependent, right? He has a shield too, and he has a decent mitigation in his Nemesis form. But if the enemy team gives you space, you want to go up and take it, right? And I will note also the card caps out movement speed wise at 3 players on the card. Yeah, like just knowing what characters they had and like how many people they have should tell you there's no reason to be afraid of these people. Okay, so there's a trap on the floor, and you can actually see the Junkrat to your left. What you can do right now is swing to the corner a bit wide, right? Throw a trap down to cut off his escape. Or not a trap, but your vortex. And then push him this way, right? Just pop your nemesis and just punch him 3 times, or maybe 4 now. I'm not entirely sure. And he dies here. Catch on now. Okay. Generally speaking, if you can get away without using your nemesis form to get a kill, you want to, right? Just spam him out. But you kind of messed up your vortex, and he was about to jump away, so. Okay, so just be a little bit more aware of that trap, right? Okay, again, you just saw your cast die to 2 of their supports, right? Instead of chasing this Rhine, what if instead you kept taking space as he's backing up and no longer watching this angle and started spamming these people, right? They'll get distracted by you and be forced to heal each other, which leaves this Rhine all alone on the front line, right? If you play in this good position, you know, you have good cover up here. I'm sorry, I was a little distracted there. If you play up here around this corner here, right? You have good cover and you're in no chance of dying, right? You can keep pressuring them and force them to make mistakes as your team just runs into the Reinhardt. Okay, so against Ana, you want to be very careful because she is a sleep dart, right? It stuns you for, I believe, 2.5 or maybe 3-ish seconds now. If you know there's an Ana, you should be either playing around a corner and doing something akin to this, right? Just jiggle peeking so she can't easily sleep you, right? And if you get slept, you're at least around a corner and they have to waste time trying to get damage on you. Or you throw down a shield so she can't sleep you. Ana's super important. If their Reinhardt was better and playing a main with their Ana and you get slept here, he could just pin you right off the map and, you know, win the fight that way. So again, you know, going back to character knowledge, it's very important. But since Orion's just flanking, right? You should ignore this guy, right? He can't do anything. If he kills people here, he has to shatter, I guess. But you should be using his, I guess, non-presence on the front line and the Ana's lack of sleep dart as an opportunity to go in. You could use your Vortex and Nemesis mode to quickly get those kills right so they can't run, and then pop your ultimate too. So again, you can use your Vortex if the Juno's sitting on the floor, right, and you Vortex, she shouldn't be able to fly away like that. Okay, so nothing you really could have done about that, except to be more aggressive from the get-go, right? If you were chasing those kills a bit harder and using your advantages, right, you could have killed both their supports. I will say also, shields do block Reinhardt's shatter, so just keep that in mind. So here, 2 of your teammates are already dead. You shouldn't be using your ultimate because it's very, very unlikely you'll kill anyone. Even if you kill a few people, it's very unlikely you'll be able to turn the fight in your favor, right? Okay, I actually like this decision. I don't know if this is why you did it, but you saw the Pharah was just spamming that way. Just going a different way so you don't waste time is the correct call. Yeah, don't use shield if you don't know what's around the corner, right? I mean, 99% of the time, you actually want to know if the shield's going to get value and block damage, right? Again, you know, you can see you're having a really hard time shooting this Pharah. Find someone else to shoot. You saw the Junkrat down to your right. You could throw a Vortex at his feet and just go into your Nemesis form to guarantee the kill. And this isn't necessarily because your aim is bad. You're using a pretty slow projectile and she's like across the map, so very unlikely you'll be able to kill her, even if you're like a top 500 Ramatra. I mean, maybe because she's just flying in a straight line, probably, but you have to be significantly better than your rank, right? If you were looking at this guy to begin with, right, you wouldn't have eaten all that damage. So again, just you see, he's in a bad spot. He's gonna have a hard time running away. Just use your vortex and chase the kill, right? Here, don't shoot the Rhine. Keep shooting the Junkrat. Even if you miss him, right, you're forcing him to waste time shooting you. And he's never gonna kill you, right? Unless you really, really misplay. He's gonna need his ultimate to do anything to you, really. Just keeping his attention and forcing his supports to heal him instead of his Rhine is more valuable than shooting his shield, right? So you kind of... Okay, that's decent. Now notice, look how powerful your Cass's play here is. Just because he was presumably not shooting the Rhine. Right now, everyone is shooting him here. He gets a pick. Right, just because he's kind of in a good spot-ish. I mean, it's not perfect. But you see the power of just distracting people? It really just completely stops. It forces them to, like, panic, more or less. Obviously, like, that's not a good play at higher ranks. But you see they panic because of that. If the Ana saw, for example, people were getting low, she could have used her nano boost and still turned that fight, right? So here, yeah, you don't really want to be on cart. Again, you want to be controlling a choke point. If instead of being down here, you were up here and just literally spamming this doorway, right? You can see this doorway, you can see this one. And they don't really have great cover if they come lower, right? Usually going high ground at the very start of fights is very valuable, right? You don't really want to be on cart again unless you have no choice, which is basically like if they actually are able to contest the fight.
The payload has reached
Again, if you were using your vortex here, she couldn't fly away like this, right? You'd have a much better chance of killing her. Okay, good kill. Okay, the problem, you were just behind the enemy lines, right? It was a good kill, but since you were chasing that hard, right? Not necessarily a bad thing. You can, limit test. I wouldn't recommend it because they're all going to be up here because they just respawn. But it's okay to limit test and see what you can get away with. After you killed this Juno, you should have probably played down here, right? And try to force their attention. But you're just too far in because you were on cart to begin with, right? If you were already taking positioning, instead of sitting on cart, you wouldn't have get caught out here. You're just too aggressive based on their spawns.
Let's roll out.
That's okay, it's okay to just try and see what you can do. Get away with. That's very important for improving. Try to go for risky plays every now and then. Okay, your instinct when you hear tire should be to switch to Nemesis form. Actually, if you're at full health in Nemesis form, I think you have like almost 700 HP, right? You actually can't die to tire because it does 600 max damage. And if you want to, if you see he's gonna like, if it's in front of you, you can also hold right click, I believe, and block 75% of all its damage. So it only does what, like 150 max, ignoring armor. So it's okay. It's not the end of the world because you also killed 2 of your other teammates anyway. So
Failure is not defeat.
okay, good. If this guy's just standing up here, yeah, you gotta chase him away, right? Again, throw down a vortex and makes them a lot easier to hit, right?
You are safe with me.
Really, I don't think your cat should be peeking that aggressively, but that's okay. I think you still have to wait for someone else to spawn. Get out of the spawn, I should say.
Turning up the heat.
Yeah, you should be kind of running in here because you just killed the Junkrat, right? Not literally just holding W, but aggressing a bit and trying to take more aggressive angles. You definitely don't want to be kind of wandering around cart, right? There's pretty much always, I should say there's pretty much no excuse not to always be spamming, right? You want your uptime on damage to be as high as possible, generally speaking. You know, even if you miss them, you still force them to move around, right? And, you know, you're probably not going to miss everything. Good kill. Hopefully you turn around for this Anna. Normally, you know, if she wasn't so weak, I'd just say ignore her and go for the Anna because Anna's a much easier target, right? Because she can't fly. Okay, pay attention. There is a trap on the floor again. Again, the it's a good thing you used Vortex this time, but it was just a little. Oh wow, you actually have 775 health. Jesus. Again, you know, their entire team besides the Pharah and Reiner here, I would just ignore the Pharah the best you can. And play cover a bit better. There's no reason to run out in the open. If once you got those picks, oh, I guess Juno just respawned too. I guess, oh, that's the new spawn system, right? Yeah, I was wondering. Last time I really played, people did not get these like really generous spawn waves. So staggering was more beneficial. It's still beneficial, very beneficial, but it was more beneficial in the past. If instead you just running out here, because you know the Pharaoh should still be alive, you just played pretty much in this room and just spam the Reinhardt, right? Maybe you could peek out this far and spam him, and if the Pharaoh starts shooting you, no problem. You know, just run away, because the rest of your team just die, right? You're still waiting them to get back. So, you know, keep the pressure up, but be ready to run. Just running into him, right? You know, you're running right into the Reinhardt's range. And exposing yourself to the Pharah, it gets you killed as your team just gets back, right? So I'm sure if you imagine, if you just literally waited here for another second or two, you would have probably lived, right? Okay, if you see the Ryans this week, right, remember, your punches go through his shield. Also, your just normal melee attacks, I think it's V by default, yeah? Also go through shield. So if you get super close here, now because he's so weak, I think it's excusable to pretty much get point blank range to your melee connects, right? Just walk up to him, hit V, I think twice, and he's going to die, right? No reason to even use your Nemesis for him here, because you can kill him without it, and then use it to punish or pressure the rest of his team. Not really the end of the world that you used it, but you could have gotten away without using it. Okay, actually, I like that you know the Nemesis into ultimate cancel, right? Unless it does that to you for free now, I'm not entirely sure. And instead of running after these guys and ignoring the Junkrat, you really should be targeting the Junkrat, because either he runs backwards with them and you can punch all three at the same time, or he runs this way and LOSs himself from the supports. The Junkrat's the most dangerous one right now because he does by far the most damage, right? And he actually has a chance of killing you. If you kill him, then you can continue to chase these people anyways, right? You can see, look how low you get, right? If the Junkrat hit you one more time, you would have died. And by killing the Junkrat, I know like it's not really that important, you would have prevented him from tiring, right? That's not the most important thing. Here, just block. If you hear him tire close range, right, just hold block and do your best to keep the tire in front of you. Skip forward just a little bit here. Okay, in general, it's okay. Generally use your Nemesis get back to the fight quickly, you should be using it out of spawn because the card's so far away, right? Because you do move like 25% faster, something like that in Nemesis form. And you want it to have it back by the time you get back to the fight, right? So you used it just a few seconds too late here means you're not going to have it in this fight. Okay, again, good going after the Ana. You see she's weak. But remember, you also saw a Junkrat to the right. Who's more killable, the Junk or the full health Reinhardt? So after killing this Ana, ignore the Rein, even though, yeah, he just ulted and is not moving for a second. But there's nothing you can do physically, mathematically to kill him, right? It's impossible. You really have to go pressure this Junkrat so he can't follow him in the shadow. Okay, if
Ready.
I'm just gonna watch a little bit of the first. Actually, let's see how close they get here. I unfortunately will not have time to watch the whole thing. I'll make a few remarks about your first fight. See how it goes. What happened? I apologize. Okay, so don't be this far forward. It's really dangerous, right? They can, there's spawns right here. Like, especially with Junkrat, he can literally just sit and spawn and spam grenades in this place, and you'll just get blown up. Really, what you want to be doing is holding here, right? You want to practice doing the right things. I don't know if your team is set up here. It doesn't really matter. Or up here, right? At least if they start hard engaging on your team from these positions, you can walk forward and fight with them a bit and then kite away. But by playing so far up, you put yourself in a lot of danger, right? Okay, I also notice you have a bad habit of wasting a lot of ammo, right? If you don't see anyone on your screen that's an opponent, you want to not be shooting. You see like how bad of a spot you're in, you just let this guy walk up to you. Start swinging. Unfortunately, you got to pick, but there's not much you can do there to stop the Rein from walking forward. Really, what you should be looking to do as soon as you get that pick, because your team's already in such a bad spot, right, is do your best to pressure their backline, so this Rein cannot do this. Okay, so your entire team just died. You should be running away. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. Yeah, just keep running. You can't win 1v5. Okay, you commit here, so obviously you're just gonna die. Kill anyone. The problem is you're dying so much later from your team, right? Your team has actually already started to respawn, and look at how far away your spawn is compared to theirs, right? You pretty much, if you walk a bit to the left, right, you can see their spawn doors more or less, right? But like, you see your teammates and how far away they are. Even if you manage to kill one person here, even two, they'll be back before you get back, right? They'll be back before probably your maybe they'll be back after your team gets back, but probably only slightly. Okay, so I think I'll reiterate. Just keep playing the game, learn the different characters and whatnot, and right. Sorry again, I got a little distracted. And yeah, the other two tips apply as well. Just keep track of your teammates' numbers as well as your opponent's numbers, and use your cooldowns a lot more, right? You pretty much always want to be rotating through them, especially on Ramacha, right? Always try to get value out of them. I will actually give you a bit of in closing, look into, I believe, Yeedle has a Ramatra guide online. And I also recommend A10, watching some of A10's videos on like the basics of tanking to try to learn like, a bit more about LOS and whatnot, right? So I hope this helps.